Hi, my name is Paige Nato, and today I'm going to be talking to you guys about lipids, more specifically the chemical structure and the different types of lipids that there are. Now, right here I have three different types of lipids. I have olive oil, shortening, and butter. Lipids are simply molecules that contain a lot of hydrocarbons, and they help the body store energy. One of the most common types of lipids are triglycerides. A triglyceride is simply a glycerol that is attached to three fatty acid chains. So, this is what a glycerol looks like. Ignore the pink. I like pink. But this is what the chemical structure of a glycerol would look like. And a glycerol doesn't become a triglyceride until it forms a three fatty acid chain. So a single fatty acid chain looks like this. This is single fatty acid chain. And once all three of those combine with the glycerol, it forms, like I said, a triglyceride, which looks similar to this. Now, the amount of carbons and the amount of hydrogens can vary between the fatty acids, which can make them different types of triglycerides, but the basic structure is very similar. Now, there are also more than one type of lipids. A saturated lipid is a solid at room temperature, also known as, you can see, as the butter, whereas an unsaturated lipid or an unsaturated fat is liquid at room temperature. The main difference between the saturated fats and the unsaturated fats is usually the chemical structure of them. Now, saturated fats are fats that are completely saturated or completely filled with hydrogen bonds. An unsaturated fat is not completely filled with hydrogen bonds and usually has at least one or more double bonds on the carbons. Now, this is what a saturated fat would look like. You can see this is the butter. It's completely hard at room temperature. I'm squeezing it. Nothing's happening. And this is what the chemical structure of a saturated fat would look like. As you can see, they're all as many hydrogens that can fit will go into the carbons. Now, in contrast, the unsaturated fat, like I said, is liquid at room temperature. So this is a very good example of an unsaturated fat. This is olive oil. And the chemical structure of an unsaturated fat looks similar to this. Now, as you can see, there are more than one double bond on the carbons. And more specifically, if there are two or more double bonds on an unsaturated fat, then it becomes a polyunsaturated fat. So this example that I just showed you would also be considered a polyunsaturated fat. Now, if you want to look at the level of unsaturated and unsaturated fats, then one of the most saturated fats that I have on this table is butter. Now, butter is about, I think a little bit more than 60% saturated fat, and I think it's like a little more than 20% unsaturated fat. So that's why it's as solid at room temperature as it is. Now, the shortening, on the other hand, is only about 30% saturated fat. In complete and total contrast from the other two, olive oil is about 74, 75, or somewhere around there percent unsaturated fat, which is why it's so liquid at room temperature. Now, vegetables overall have a much lower saturated fat content than animal fat. As you can tell, most of them are liquid at room temperature, whereas most animal fats are considered solid. Also, in unsaturated fats, lipids are classified as polar lipids, meaning that they have a hydrophobic tail that attracts water and a lipophilic tail that attracts to oil. So, right here, I have a substance that is olive oil and water. And if you look really closely, you can see there's almost like a membrane that's dividing the two of them, and that is the polar structure of. I'll let you put it up here so you can see. That is the polar structure of the lipid that's causing that. Now, the other type of lipid that can happen is a nonpolar tail, meaning that it does not attract to water. It actually is very repellent against water, and that is considered hydrophobic. Most cholesterol that we have in our body is considered to be nonpolar. So basically, if you want to go through the process of making an unsaturated fat more saturated, you would have to go through a process called hydrogenation. Now, hydrogenation is basically the process of adding more hydrogens to an unsaturated fat, which in turn makes the unsaturated liquid more solid. The biggest problem with hydrogenation is that a lot of the times trans fats are formed as a result of the hydrogenation process. Trans fats can be found in a lot of fast foods as well as other processed foods, and trans fat is really bad for you because what it does is it basically increases the bad cholesterol levels in your body, which is known as LDL, and at the same time it also reduces your good cholesterol that keeps you healthy and strong and your immune system high, and that's known as HDL. Basically, there are many different types of forms of lipids, and even more than just the three that I have here. There's different types of oil, there's different types of fat, there's different types of animal fat that I don't even have on here. Each form has their own chemical structure as well as their own job or task that they are to do and that they do well at. The biggest thing that we need to learn is which lipid or which fat is best for us, will work best for whatever item that we're planning on doing, and whichever is the healthiest. And overall, if we are going to hydrogenate them, whichever has the lowest or the least or no trans fat in them. So that is my presentation. So thank you. Are you fucking kidding me? No, it didn't. No, it didn't. No, it didn't. No, it didn't.